Hi, this is Roman, and today we're going to be talking about Unit 8, Conditional Probability, Day 20, Using Probability to Determine Whether Events Are Dependent, Part 2. And our focus question is going to be, how can we use two-way tables to estimate conditional probability? So today what I'm going to show is how to create a tiered task for a lesson like Day 20. So we will be focusing on probability, but you could use this for multiple different lessons. And it is very useful for differentiation. So as I take a look through our lesson, we have our introduction, right? We have our warming up exercises, which we will be possibly using for our tier task. And we also have an explore section and a summary section. So what I do want to mention is before we even get into the tier task, we should be creating a formative assessment before our tier task and give students actionable feedback to use from that formative assessment. And the purpose of a tier task is for students to take ownership based on the feedback given to them from that formative assessment to decide where they begin in the tier task. So I'm going to show a sample for this lesson here. And I'm using a dinner menu tier task. And I will say from my personal experience that students love the little images that go in here. And I've heard them say that we've shared a meal based on doing a lesson before. And I was very surprised at how enjoyable they found the idea of a dinner menu as a tiered task. So here I'll have an appetizer as my first task. And I'm going to consider the appetizers as foundational skills. So if the appetizer is considered a foundational skill, it's something that they need before they can get into the exam level content. So here what I have is just to write the formulas of the following: P of A or B, P of A and B, and P of A given B. And these are formulas that they need to know before they could even start those questions. And you do want to make your appetizers a prereq to the exam level content or the grade level content. So students are working their way towards that exam level content. I will say what's very interesting after doing these tiered tasks through my experience is that even when students get feedback that they have 100% understood the formative assessment task, a lot of them will still begin at the foundational skills because they feel they need to strengthen their foundational skills before they move on to the grade level content. And this is great feedback for us as teachers, because while we might feel a student is very comfortable, if they're expressing that they want to work on the foundations more, that's something that we can keep note of and maybe review those foundational skills and make sure the students feel comfortable. So the main dish is going to come right after this appetizer, right? And again, if we're doing a formative assessment and the students do really well on the formative assessment, they could take ownership and start at exam level content if they've shown mastery for the formative assessment task. So they could choose to skip the foundational skills, right? But this is really where the student choice would end. They have to do the exam level content if they feel like they've mastered a formative assessment task. And here we have something that's a grade level question, right? So students would be working on the grade level questions. Preferably you might have 2 or 3 of them here. And again, I have my little main dish here to symbolize that. So you want to give students all an entry point into this exam level content. Now the last part of the tiered task can be called dessert, and everybody loves dessert. So all of a sudden now we're rephrasing this portion of a lesson where dessert has a very friendly connotation, and a lot of students like the idea of dessert. So now people want to get to this section. And dessert is either above grade level content, or we can choose to spiral for dessert. So spiraling past content and making everyone sure that we're still having a retention of knowledge as we continue through our school year. So in this case, what I've done is I've pushed, it's not above grade level, but what I have done here for the dessert is I've taken some SAT questions that have to do with geometry, right? So what's different about this than the content that we are doing is that the SAT questions are phrased differently. They have a different format. Sometimes they can be very wordy. So they're not exactly aligned to our exam level content for a Regents exam, but it's the same content and it's a different aspect of it. And it's very valuable for our students who are going to take the SATs to see how the content that we learn here is being applied on another test that a lot of them hold a lot of stakes in with respect to their college applications. So the SATs is one resource. Again, doing probability here, I could have done triangles, I could have done parallel lines cut by a transversal, right? And it's a great way to assess what has been remembered for desserts. Now, here are a few extra ideas for you guys, and I'm getting these from colleagues. When I presented this in my school, I really push for everyone to make it their own and make it their own voice. I have seen people do mild, medium, and spicy instead of appetizer, main dish, and dessert, with, I guess, the little pictures of the spice logos, and they get more hot as you get towards the end of a lesson. And again, we're pushing for students to want to engage in the more rigorous content as they continue in the lesson. I've also had a teacher do opening bout, main event, or opening bout, or prelims, opening bouts, and then main event, or closing show. So there's many different ways to make this your own. So if I were to leave you here again, I would just reiterate the importance of the formative assessment task. So this should really be somewhere close to the last 20 minutes of a lesson, and there should be some type of assessment, and we should really push for students to take ownership of their decisions in our classrooms and push for them to decide whether they're picking a foundational skill in a main dish, and they should be able to reflect on why. So you may want to add a little writing piece in between the tier task or main dish and ask which one did you decide to go with and why, and that can give you even more information as a teacher. I hope you found this useful.